Red Bull walked away from the Japanese Grand Prix not just with a win, but with a thunderous reminder to the rest of the grid: they're still the benchmark. Max Verstappen delivered a masterclass in precision, keeping both McLarens firmly behind him with an ice-cold display of control that silenced much of the skepticism surrounding the RB21. Before the weekend, the whispers in the paddock were clear. Red Bull's 2025 challenger was twitchy, inconsistent, and notoriously difficult to handle. But things have shifted dramatically. The Austrian squad has pulled back the curtain on a series of crucial upgrades that may very well mark a turning point. Not only could these changes reshape their championship fight, but they're also a direct answer to McLaren's recent rise in form. At the core of this renewed Red Bull resurgence lies a calculated pivot, a bold injection of resources into technical innovation and a sharp re-evaluation of their developmental philosophy. The team is zeroing in on a new technical directive, TD, set to debut at the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona, that could significantly restrict McLaren's aerodynamic flexibility, especially concerning how their front wing behaves under pressure. Red Bull's leadership is confident this new regulation could disrupt the current balance more than many expect. McLaren has been praised for its daring manipulation of aero-elasticity, but under tighter FIA scrutiny, that same strength might now become a liability. And then there's Verstappen, the relentless predator. Despite voicing his frustration over the RB21's handling at Suzuka, Max still squeezed every last drop of performance from a machine that many believe hasn't yet reached its peak. That fact alone is spine-chilling for his competitors, because if Max can dominate in a car he doesn't fully trust, what happens when the upgrades kick in and the car finally bends to his will? Suzuka already marked the first step in Red Bull's next evolution. A redesigned engine cover and a reworked rear suspension made their debut, aimed at optimizing the beam wing's performance, a vital element for rear stability and high-speed cornering. While Yuki Tsunoda ran with a higher downforce rear wing setup to enhance grip, Max chose a leaner configuration, and still crushed the field. Even Christian Horner, usually reserved in his praise, couldn't hide his satisfaction with how well the team is adjusting to the new technical direction. Meanwhile, Helmut Marko has doubled down on urgency, reminding everyone that Red Bull has no more than 5 races to implement the crucial upgrades needed to match, and eventually surpass, McLaren. Any hesitation, he warns, could cost them the championship. That's why Yuki Tsunoda is getting priority over Liam Lawson, not just for marketing reasons or homegrown appeal, but because his detailed, immediate technical feedback is critical to refining the RB21 in real time. Every lap matters. Every corner is a war zone. And if Verstappen wants to clinch his 5th world title, the path must be paved now. And now, let's talk raw stats. We're only 3 races into the 2025 season, and already the storyline is shifting. Red Bull isn't just reacting, they're rewriting the narrative. If you've made it this far, thank you. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives, breaking news, and exclusive behind-the-scenes content from the world of Formula One. Your support keeps this engine running. Stay tuned. This season is just getting started. Max Verstappen is now just a single point behind Lando Norris in the drivers' standings, one measly point that has ignited a wildfire of urgency inside the Red Bull garage. The RB21 might still be a beast to handle, but if Max is already breathing down Norris' neck while wrestling a car that still feels unpredictable, the performance ceiling for Red Bull is sky-high. Once that machine stabilizes, once the chaos is tamed, things could get out of hand, fast. Now, contrast that with what's going on at McLaren. Yes, they've built an incredible car. Yes, their rebound since the early 2023 slump has been nothing short of miraculous. But there's a double-edged sword slicing through their driver lineup. 2 young predators, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, locked in a quiet war for supremacy. In Suzuka, that internal battle spilled into the strategy room. A series of questionable decisions from McLaren's pit wall handed the advantage straight to Verstappen. And this might not be a one-off. With both drivers hungry and unwilling to yield, McLaren risks collapsing under its own weight unless they can harness that fire without letting it explode. But don't think Red Bull is getting comfortable. They're under no illusion that McLaren will stay frozen while the Austrians tweak setups back in Milton Keynes. The engineering team knows full well that every step forward they take will be met by an equal, if not stronger, counterstrike from Woking. And here's where it gets interesting. The wild card in this chess game. A new FIA technical directive aims squarely at reducing excessive flex in front wings and other aero components. And guess who's most at risk? McLaren. The very team that pushed the envelope on aerodynamic elasticity now has the most to lose. The directive could slice into their advantage at the worst possible moment. Red Bull's playbook is twofold. First, turn the RB21 into a tamer, more predictable weapon, something Verstappen can drive aggressively without worrying about sudden snap oversteer or mid-corner instability. Second, strike hard and fast while McLaren is forced to adjust to the new rules. The goal isn't just to catch up, it's to blitz past before McLaren can find their footing again. But there's still a catch. One of McLaren's most underrated strengths, their tire management, remains a powerful advantage. On circuits where degradation plays a starring role, their rookies are still setting the pace. In qualifying too, their one-lap efficiency is almost surgical. So for Red Bull, it's not enough to chase marginal gains. They need a foundational leap in consistency. They're hunting for 2 to 3 extra laps of performance per stint. In Formula One, that's the line between heroics and mediocrity. So now, as the grid barrels toward the European leg of the championship, all eyes are on Barcelona. All fingers point toward the updated FIA regulations. Will Red Bull's upgrades finally tame the wild RB21? Will the directive clip McLaren's wings right when they're flying highest? And most importantly, will Max, already a legend of this era, get the tools he needs to rise again? The scene is set for a brutal showdown. This isn't a scripted drama like Drive to Survive. This is raw, real, and potentially ground-shaking. One team sharpening its claws. The other watching hairline fractures emerge in their armor. And at the center of it all, Max Verstappen stands poised, ready to strike. Meanwhile, in a parallel thread of the 2025 Formula One season, a new controversy brews. Pierre Wache, Red Bull's tech boss, has turned his focus to Ferrari, openly raising eyebrows about the flex behavior of their front wing assembly. While both Maranello and Woking have publicly denied any foul play, the truth is, no one can speak with certainty until the FIA begins rigorous enforcement of the updated rules. This is where the real pressure brews, in that gray zone between innovation and compliance. And it's there that tensions are starting to boil. Andrea Stella, McLaren's team principal, has already acknowledged that his team may need to make structural changes in response to the new directives. He didn't sugarcoat the implications. According to Stella, these aren't just minor tweaks to the front wing geometry. The rear of the car, especially the wing configuration, is now under scrutiny too. What McLaren is facing isn't a cosmetic revision. It's a structural recalibration that could have significant performance ramifications. Digging deeper into his remarks, Stella provided a glimpse into McLaren's mindset. At the start of the season, we didn't have to change anything, he said. But by race 9, there will be some adaptations, small but necessary. While rumors swirl in the paddock, Stella insisted their real challenge isn't the rule tweaks, it's the relentless pursuit of performance. I know everyone's talking about compliance and regulation, he added, but what really keeps us up at night is finding those tenths of a second. That's the real beast. In essence, while the outside world obsesses over legality, McLaren's internal focus hasn't shifted, they're still chasing raw speed. That mindset, bold, fearless, and laser-focused, is perhaps most fiercely embodied by McLaren's CEO, Zak Brown. He's made one thing crystal clear: McLaren didn't show up to play defense. They're not in this championship to survive the blows, they're here to throw punches. In Brown's own words, this team isn't just responding to rivals or adapting to FIA directives anymore. They're aiming to lead the pack, to dominate outright. Reflecting on how McLaren started its 2024 campaign, Brown was candid. Back then, the goal was to catch up to the frontrunners. Now, it's to beat them, and beat them convincingly. That shift in mentality has unleashed a new, aggressive development strategy. They're not refining anymore. They're reinventing. What's brewing behind the scenes for their 2025 machine is anything but conservative. It's daring, it's risky, and exactly what's required to lead the grid instead of trailing it. And Red Bull? They've noticed. They've seen the sharp edge in McLaren's intent, and they're ringing alarm bells. Repeatedly, voices from Milton Keynes have warned that the incoming FIA front-wing directive could disproportionately impact the performance DNA of McLaren's MCL39. Behind the scenes, there's growing speculation that McLaren, once a consistent threat at the front, might soon be dragged back into the midfield brawl. Why is that alarming? Because Red Bull knows how quickly a dominant car can lose its fangs. In 2024, they came out of the gate swinging, crushing the early rounds with blistering pace. But by mid-season, particularly around the Miami GP, the grid began to close in. That wasn't by chance. It was the result of relentless development cycles and aggressive upgrades that turned what looked like a Red Bull parade into a title dogfight. And through all of it, Max Verstappen did what many thought impossible. He stayed in the fight with what, by several metrics, was only the third quickest car. That's the modern reality of Formula One. Championships now come down to tenths, even hundredths of a second. To micro-adjustments in yaw balance. To how a car handles tire drop-off during a chaotic restart. This is no longer a sport won by the fastest car, it's won by the team that outmaneuvers chaos. And the upcoming regulatory changes around aero-flex aren't just fine print. They're power shifts. Teams like McLaren and Ferrari, who've pushed the limits of wing elasticity and structural deformation, now face a potential reckoning. Some might find clever workarounds in the gray areas of the rulebook. Others might have to rebuild their aero maps from scratch. But McLaren isn't blinking. If anything, their engineering unit is doubling down, pushing boundaries, experimenting, preparing bold upgrades. They're not trying to hang in there, they're hunting. They want Red Bull's crown, and they're not shy about it. That's what makes this phase of the 2025 season so fascinating. It's no longer just about lap times. It's about how teams react when the rules shift mid-game, how fast they can pivot, how much risk they're willing to take, and how much faith they place in their drivers to adapt under fire. Because in this brutal, merciless world of F1, the smallest aero change can rewrite race strategy. The champions of this era aren't just the ones with the fastest machinery. They're the ones who see chaos coming and dance through it. Red Bull gets it. McLaren knows it. Ferrari damn well feels it. And now, with the European leg looming, the chessboard is resetting. Every move from here on could tilt the title one way or another. What we're watching right now hasn't been attempted, let alone achieved, since the wild glory days of Keke Rosberg in '82 and Nelson Piquet in '83. Yet what Max Verstappen is doing in 2025 feels eerily similar. Almost mythical. He's not just a wheelman anymore. He's embedded deep in the machinery of Red Bull's development. Every upgrade, every tweak, every evolution carries his fingerprints. For Red Bull, this is no longer about maintaining dominance. The jungle is packed with predators. McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, even Honda's resurgence is real. The competition has never been tighter. Everyone's throwing every resource they've got into development. But Red Bull? They're all in. This could be their last real chance to win a championship under the current regulations before the sweeping 2026 reset changes everything. Which is why they've decided the RB21 will get everything. No corners cut. No development spared. Their top priority? Tame the wild beast. Right now, the RB21 is devastatingly fast, but volatile. Even Verstappen, the undisputed master of control, has struggled to harness it. It's like a caged animal. Fierce, untamed, occasionally brilliant, but never consistent. There's hope, though. Dr. Helmut Marko recently shared promising data from their wind tunnel sessions. For the first time this season, the numbers are talking. Engineers have isolated critical zones of instability, especially related to yaw sensitivity and pitch transitions. And they've begun shaping a package of upgrades aimed at expanding the car's performance window. They're not just chasing tenths per lap, they're looking to create a more forgiving setup. One that their drivers can trust over a full race distance. And that matters. Because if Yuki Tsunoda, who has shown flashes of brilliance, can find confidence in a more stable RB21, he could emerge as a powerful second weapon for Red Bull in the second half of the season. And Red Bull knows this. Verstappen doesn't need the fastest car by half a second to win. He just needs a reliable one. A machine that puts him in striking range. One that lets him fight up front, even when he's not dominant. With Tsunoda playing rear gunner more consistently, Red Bull could suddenly find themselves holding every strategic card on the table. But here's where things get really murky, the infamous gray zones of F1. This sport has always flirted with the edge. The line between clever innovation and technical illegality is razor-thin. Just look at the so-called mini DRS McLaren was accused of using in Baku 2024, a subtle mechanism to reduce drag under certain conditions. The FIA never sanctioned it, but the suspicions never went away. And in 2025, whispers are growing louder. Some believe McLaren, and possibly Ferrari, are bending the rules again. Whether true or not, the FIA is watching closely. And they're about to drop the hammer. Their next big move? A technical directive targeting flexible wings, specifically, front wings that subtly deform under heavy load to gain aero advantage. This directive, expected to land around the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona, won't be a suggestion. It'll be law. Teams will get a short grace period to comply. After that, it's zero tolerance. Red Bull sees this as a potential game-changer. They suspect McLaren's performance relies heavily on front-wing elasticity. If that loophole is closed, and their own updates land simultaneously, suddenly the untouchable MCL39 might be vulnerable. Even Verstappen himself weighed in after his dominant Suzuka win, firing a rare shot. "If I'd been in that McLaren, you'd have seen a very different version of me." That wasn't a jab. It was a warning. A glimpse into his hunger. He added later, "I'm happy with what I'm doing in this car. I don't even want to think about it. If I had been in that McLaren, you wouldn't have seen me at all." That level of confidence, backed by real gains in performance and a technical team finally marching in step, spells danger for the rest of the grid. So now the question is yours. Can Red Bull really catch McLaren? Can they reverse engineer dominance not just through mechanical upgrades, but by capitalizing on a regulatory storm that could cripple their biggest threat? This title fight won't just be decided on the asphalt. It'll be shaped in the shadows, by CFD simulations, wind tunnel secrets, and the cold corridors of FIA headquarters. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and once you do, don't forget to click the video on your screen right now for an even deeper dive into this battle between McLaren, Red Bull, and the shifting tides of the 2025 Formula One season.